Diabetes Connections is brought to you by One Touch. Every touch is a step forward. By Dexcom. Take control of your diabetes and live life to the fullest with Dexcom. By Tandem Diabetes Care, makers of the t:slim X2 insulin pump. And by Real Good Foods, real food you feel good about eating.
This is Diabetes Connections with Stacey Sims.
This week, our annual game show edition, taped on location. We have a lot of fun with in-studio contestants and prominent panelists who sometimes can't help but yell out the answers. They announced at the ADA that they are not only working on it closely with Dexcom, but also with Medtronic. Oh. That's for you. Medtronic. All right. Woohoo! Trivia, prizes, and just a good time on this year's edition of Wait, Don't Poke Me. In our community connection this week, another Caravan to Canada, but this one gets the attention of a top-tier U.S. presidential candidate. And in Tell Me Something Good, birthdays, a trip to China, and some terrific milestones to share. This podcast is not intended as medical advice. If you have those kinds of questions, please contact your healthcare provider. Welcome to another week of the show. I'm your host, Stacey Sims. And if you are new, if this is your first episode, welcome. Please keep in mind, this is a different show. We don't usually do silly game shows week by week, but I love doing this episode. It's become an annual event. Wait, Don't Poke Me is a play on the NPR game show, Wait, Don't Tell Me. And, when I'm writing it, planning it, it's like using a different part of my brain. Get to be a little bit creative, which is fun. So if you like what you hear, I'm available for corporate outings. And I'll do a Wait, Don't Poke Me for your company. I wonder if anybody would actually do that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So that will come up in just a couple of minutes. And if you were in the studio audience at the Friends for Life conference, thank you so much for coming to that. It was a blast. And yeah, we'll do it again next year. I had several requests online and in person to live stream this next year. Why not? All I need is help. So we'll figure it out. We'll find somebody to help me do that. And, there's no shortage of volunteers and helpers, quite frankly. It's just a question of planning it and giving a little bit more time to something like that. We'll see how that works. I'd love to do something like that. As you listen to this episode, my son Benny is back from a month away of regular camp, as I call it, sleepaway camp that he does every year, not diabetes camp, which he does earlier in the summer. But as I'm taping this, he still has a couple of days left. So what is the over-under, you think, on how long it takes me once he walks in the door to jump onto Clarity and look at his blood sugar numbers? I don't get them at all while he's away. They call me, or he calls me now if there are any issues. But every once in a while, if you follow me on Instagram, you know this, I'm still hitting the Dexcom app and there's nothing there. So Clarity will reload because he is using his receiver or he's using his pump. It reads now on the pump so he can see the numbers there. That's one of the greatest things about this software is that as long as it's being recorded on the user, as soon as you're back with Wi-Fi, it'll all fill in. So, while you know me, I won't report the actual numbers. I will tell you how long I was able to last before I jumped on the computer once Benny was on the Wi-Fi. I give it 20 minutes, but I'll try to hold out. All right. Hey, I want to tell you really important news. We sent this out in the newsletter last week, and you probably have seen it online already, but that is the nasal glucagon. Baqsimi is the brand name. Got approval. So the FDA said, yes, nasal glucagon is safe and effective, and it will be out soon. I was very fortunate to be on a call with Lilly. They are the makers of Baqsimi. And I'm going to talk about that at the very end of the show. I want to just share a little bit of information that came out of that call, a little bit of an editorial as well. I don't do a lot of these calls. Usually you don't hear more than what's in the press release. I hate to be the person asking the unpopular questions. I will say right now, I am thrilled that nasal glucagon is going to be an option. If you are familiar at all with the emergency glucagon kit, and we really all should be, we've done shows on this before, then you know that it's very difficult to use. It seems simple, but studies have shown that in an emergency, reconstituting the powder, the liquid, drawing it into a shot, delivering it correctly is very difficult, and that the vast majority of people, even those who are trained, basically mess it up. So nasal glucagon is much easier. You use it like a nasal spray, and that's it. So it's really going to be great for caregivers, for schools, for sleepovers, for camps. I'm thrilled that this is an option. But I do have a couple of things to say about how Lily is rolling this out. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. Diabetes Connections is brought to you by Dexcom. And I was just talking about this, Dexcom Clarity. It is their diabetes management software. For a long time, I was guilty of this. I thought it was something just our endo used. But, you can use it on the desktop or as an app on your phone. And it is an easy way to keep track of the big picture. When Benny is home, I check it about once a week, but it does help us dial back and see longer term trends and help us not to overreact to what happened for just one day or just 1 hour. The overlay reports help to put context to Benny's glucose levels and patterns. You can even share the reports with your care team, which makes appointments a lot more productive. Managing diabetes is not easy, but I feel like we have one of the best CGM systems working for us. Find out more at diabetes-connections.com and click on the Dexcom logo. Something different this week. Instead of an interview, we have our annual game show. There are a couple of quick notes to this. This is taped live in front of an audience at the Friends for Life conference. This is not a studio, even though I keep saying studio audience. And so because this is basically a large room, and frankly, they put us in a much bigger room than last year, which was great because we had more people who wanted to see the session and see the show, but it's not that great for the audio. So I apologize. It's fine, but you know how I get if it's not the way I want it and things are perfect. So it's just a little off. I'm already working on how to make that better for next year. We do heavily stack introductions in the very beginning of the show, so I appreciate you listening to all of that. The contestants that we mention in person were chosen at random. People drew numbers when they walked into the room, and then we picked them at random right at the start. And the listeners that Maura reads the names of were selected from the Facebook group in the weeks leading up to the conference. So if you want to take part in silly stuff like this or really just learn more and follow the show more closely, the Facebook group is the best way to go. It's Diabetes Connections, the group. The other way to stay in touch if you're not on Facebook is through the newsletter. And when you go to diabetes-connections.com, the newsletter sign up should pop up. And if it doesn't, just scroll down to the bottom and there's a newsletter sign up there. I also need to tell you, I know I'm getting to the show, I'm sorry. I also need to tell you that we allude to this during the games, that Dr. Stephen Ponder is wearing a shark hat. He is very well known for wearing silly hats, and he does talk about that during the show, but I think we allude to the shark or the fish on his head before he talks about his hats. I'm going to link up photos in the Facebook group so you can see how the whole thing looked. Okay, here we go.
Live from the Children with Diabetes Friends for Life conference in the amazing Coronado Springs Resort. To be specific, the place where the beautiful people meet to have fun and gather. Yucatan 1, 2, and 3. This is Wait, Don't Poke Me, the Diabetes Game Show. Now here's your host, Stacy Sims.
Thank you all so much for coming to this live taping. We are so excited to have you here. If you have heard the NPR game show, Wait, Don't Tell Me, this is our version. So apologies to NPR in advance. Now, Children with Diabetes Friends for Life is an incredible educational event. You're going to find new friends, you're going to see old friends, and you're going to leave here feeling like you can handle whatever diabetes throws at you. In this session, you're going to meet some terrific people living with diabetes who've also gone above and beyond to help the community. And we hope you'll have a laugh or two at their expense. Wait, Don't Poke Me will feature trivia, Bluff the Listener, and much more. Before we get to the games, let's get to our panelists. We're going to do a quick intro here, then you'll hear more from them in just a bit. I'm going to jump in here and do a couple of those bios because we had a little bit more of a technical issue that feedback that you may have heard got pretty bad. So let me tell you about two of our contestants. Dr. Stephen Ponder might be best known for his method of dynamic diabetes management called sugar surfing, but his list of accomplishments goes far beyond. In addition to being a pediatric endo with Baylor Scott and White Healthcare in Temple, Texas, he is a certified diabetes educator. In fact, the AADE chose him as the 2018 Diabetes Educator of the Year. Dr. Ponder has volunteered for 37 consecutive years at the Texas Lions Camp and has served as its medical director since 1989. Dr. Ponder was himself diagnosed with type 1 diabetes on March 1st, 1966, which means he just marked 53 years with type 1, but he is probably most proud of being a grandpa to little Cammie. Our next panelist is Howard Look. He is the president, CEO, and founder of Tide Pool. Now, previously, Howard was on the founders team at TiVo. He was also at Pixar. He was also at Amazon. And the list goes on and on. In 2015, Howard was awarded the White House Champions of Change Award on behalf of Tide Pool's work. And in 2016, he participated in a panel discussion with President Barack Obama at the Precision Medicine Initiative at the White House. Howard Look has 3 children, including his daughter Katie, who was diagnosed in 2011, and she just completed her first year of college away at NYU. I bring this up because Howard and his wife live in California. And of course, it's stressful to send your kiddo to college with or without diabetes. And he alludes to that a little bit later on in terms of sending Katie to college with Loop. The audio gets significantly better here, so I'm going to let my past self continue the introductions.
Charisse Shockley was diagnosed with latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, LADA, in 2004 at the age of 23, and she is the founder of DSMA, Diabetes Social Media Advocacy. These are weekly Twitter chats that bring people together who otherwise might never have met, and they made public regular discussion about diabetes as normal as anything else on Twitter. Charisse also started Blue Fridays, where we wear that color to raise awareness, and WOC, Women of Color Diabetes, a new Instagram campaign. She's a podcast host, a wife, a mom, an Army veteran, and if you followed her hashtag degree before 40, you know she is a recent college graduate. Charisse has worked most recently with Roche as their social media marketing specialist, and she's leaving that position in August, so we cannot wait to see what happens next. Thank you for being here. Our timekeeper, scorekeeper, and rule keeper is Maura McCarthy. She is the author of the best-selling books Raising Teens with Diabetes, A Parent's Survival Guide, and The Everything Parent's Guide to Juvenile Diabetes, the creator of the blog Despite Diabetes and the Project Blue November campaign. Maura is a well-known diabetes advocate and speaker. She was JDRF's International Volunteer of the Year in 2007. Her daughter was diagnosed as a young child, has now graduated college, works in the D.C. area. Great job, far from home. So Maura, great job. And of course, Maura joins me each month for the Ask the DMOM advice show on Diabetes Connections. She is doing some sessions. Actually, I think everybody here is doing sessions. And Maura and I are doing the closing keynote on Friday. So come see us. Hi, Maura.
Nice to see you all.
Oh, my God. I'm exhausted from that. Let's get to the games. Okay, Maura, can you tell us who our contestants are today?
My mic back on. I absolutely can. We have drawn from the top tier of people who are knowledgeable in diabetes and life. First of all, we have a young man who takes as much pride in his beer prowess as anything else, Mr. Mike Hoskins. Next, we have a guy who will never make you take your lumps. He just wants you to be happy all the time, Matt Lumpkin. We also wanted some absolutely beautiful supermodels here, yet with a brain. And so we have the beautiful Judy Huntley. And the epically classic and fabulous Janice Grinsby. We also have some online contestants, and this is really exciting because they're at home listening, and they don't even know yet, I believe, that they're contestants. And so they had to put their names in ahead of time to get drawn, and I was able to get some bio information about them. So first of all, known worldwide for her singing cats, this amazing woman makes the world come alive when her cats say meow, meow, meow to the tune of songs like Diabetes, Ketosis that my daughter used to sing at camp. Wendy Moody. Thank you for joining us from the distance. Then we have an amazing other woman who's going to join us, who also is known in the world for playing drums while riding a unicycle, which she does every day on her way to the grocery store. Please welcome Dixie Ybarra, and I hope I pronounced her last name correctly. Last but not least, I wrote down this pronunciation and now I don't have it here, so I'm going to do my best. An amazing person who absolutely has set the world on fire with things that we can't talk about publicly. Welcome, Yeramichael Altman. Yerachmiel. I apologize.
All right, so appreciate you sitting through the introductions. The way this works, we're going to play some games. We're going to add some points more. Are you ready to score some points here? All right. So, Howard, you are first, and we are going to do a little bit of diabetes trivia. So don't look over my shoulder. This is when I needed a podium.
And you can't ask Siri.
You can't ask Siri. Yeah, no. Although we should find out if she'd know. That would be interesting. Okay, so...
My Siri's a he.
Oh.
Siri is a he. That's what I meant to say.
Siri's a he?
Yeah.
Mine is Australian.
Mine's a British male.
Very nice. Very nice. Howard,
yes.
There is a new diabetes app called Clue. It is in beta testing right now. You need a smartwatch to use it because it gathers data from?
It senses when you're bringing your hand to your mouth and eating.
Right, it senses hand movements.
Yes.
Exactly. Excellent. Baylor's Lauren Cox lives with type 1 diabetes and helped her team win the national championship this year in what sport?
National championship.
You can't help it. You can comment. You can give me a hint.
Basketball.
Basketball. Remember, it's a podcast, Charisse. Oh. Charisse.
Thanks, Charisse.
Diabetes Mind, Howard.
I knew that.
It's hard when you're under pressure, though. Diabetes Mind did a great write-up of the ADA sessions that happened earlier this summer, in which we learned that, among other important scientific things, people with diabetes in the UK who inject too vigorously are called... They have a funny little nickname.
Super pokers?
Jammers. They're called jammers. Yeah, they're called jammers.
Did anyone else have a PG-13 thought in their head?
Wow.
Or was that just me?
Wow. All right, 2 more questions for Howard. Carrie Sparling's beloved 6 Until Me blog wrapped up its long run this year. Carrie is still writing, speaking, of course, but not posting daily as she did for 14 years. Why is her blog called 6 Until Me, Howard?
She was diagnosed when she was 6 years old, and that's when she feels like her full personality was revealed.
I'm going to give that to you because that's what I always said, but she told me she was diagnosed at 7. She had 6 years before diabetes.
Okay.
But I'm going to give that to you.
Wait, Stacey, are you saying so if you're wrong, it's right?
If I give you the point, it's okay. Give him half a point. Give him half a point. Okay. So we know Friends for Life is celebrating 20 years, so everybody's getting a question about Friends for Life. By the way, has anybody been here all 20 years? Anybody in the room been coming? I don't have a prize for you. I was just curious. All right. Harold Time is a beloved institution here at Friends for Life. Where did Laura Bilodeau find Harold Sanko, who runs the Sports Central? He's Harold. You can't know the. Are you trying to help out? All right. Did he
behave?
Okay. So here are your choices. Where did she find him? At a JDRF walk, warming up the crowd, at a marathon speed walking event, or at an Irish dancing competition happening at the same time as Friends for Life?
I've got to go with Irish dance competition.
It was a JDRF walk warming up the crowd. She pulled him aside and asked him to come, and more than 10 years later, here he is. But many of us remember the Irish dancing convention happening at the same time as Friends for Life a few years back. That was about 3 years ago at the Marriott.
It was salsa dancing.
At the Marriott, I remember that.
It was salsa
No,
dancing.
that's another one.
Oh, with the guns.
There was there was Irish dancing. I've never seen that much glitter at the Marriott. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Good job, Howard. All right. Charisse, you're up.
Oh.
Okay. Apple stores announced they will sell one-drop products in their stores a couple of weeks ago. This is actually the second diabetes product Apple stores have carried. Do you know the first? You don't have to know the brand name, but you can describe it.
The first Apple product,
diabetes product sold in an Apple store.
Was it the IBG store?
Yes. It was. It was the iPhone glucose meter. Very
Yes.
good. Yeah, BG store. The phrase, I'm glad I didn't ask you this one. The phrase, "we are not waiting," used for the DIY crowd, came from a whiteboard full of ideas at a meeting in 2013. Which of these phrases was not also on that board? Data is a means, not an end. Knowing our kids are safe. Gimme the stuff and gimme it now.
And which one was not?
Which one was not?
The first one?
Data is means, not an end.
Yes.
Incorrect. Gimme the stuff and gimme it now. Even though I like that one better.
She should get a half a point.
You get a half a point. Get a half a point.
Thank you.
That's a really cool photo, by the way, that you share. Have you done your presentation yet?
That's Friday morning.
Friday morning, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants.
That's right.
Is a wonderful presentation, and you can see that whiteboard where the phrase "we are not waiting," as catchy as it is, it didn't just come from some marketing or something. It was really this great meeting, and Howard will tell you more about it.
Lane Desborough said it.
Lane Desborough said it. All right, developer Scott Hanselman, who lives with Type 1, created something really cool this year for gamers who want to see themselves better represented on the screen. What is it?
It's Avatar.
It was an avatar.
We're in the we are not waiting. What's so amazing about that is that you can actually change the color of the avatar. You can make it be more of who you are and not what society sees you as.
Wow.
So if you have a kid or if you play on the Xbox or other things, Scott has created an avatar for your gamer. They can have diabetes accessories in the game, and they can match the color that you are. If you're a person of color, if you're Caucasian, whatever. Scott was very cool. And his Xbox name is Glucose, I found out. Adam Brown is the author of Bright Spots and Landmines, the diabetes guide I wish someone had handed me. What is the breakfast Adam says changed his life?
Chia seeds.
Chia pudding, absolutely.
Pudding, yes.
Chia seeds is fine.
Pudding.
And I keep telling Adam, it's a great breakfast. It sounds disgusting. We need a better name for it. I'm sure it's
I've had it. It's
of
great.
course, but chia pudding. Ugh. So if anybody has a better name for it, we got to tell Adam. We'll get on that.
Maybe you should do a social campaign. What should we rename this?
Yeah. Hashtag chia is fun.
Yes.
All right. At the very first Friends for Life event, Laura Bilodeau asked Jeff Hitchcock to make it an official part of the Children with Diabetes organization. He said no.
Yes, he did.
He said no. Then he told her, "We'll get a sponsor and we'll put an event together." Laura has shared with me on the podcast her most effective and unusual persuasive technique. Do you have any idea what she does to get sponsors who are reluctant to pay for Friends for Life?
She asked them to come?
She asked them to come.
Let's see. She asked them for a run. She always liked to run. I have no clue.
She sings into their voicemail and will not stop until they call her back.
Oh.
All right, very well done. Very well done. Very well done. All right, Dr. Ponder. New research shows that it is possible an existing vaccine for a highly contagious virus that mostly affects infants may play a role in lowering the risk of type 1 diabetes. This recent study was a follow-up on something noticed in Australia. What's the vaccine?
Shingles?
Rotavirus.
Okay.
That's a hard one. Sorry. I gave it to the doctor.
So, yeah.
All right, this is another hard one. 3 different actors with type 1 diabetes have played superheroes on TV shows in the last few years. The heroes they have played or are taping right now are Stargirl, Thor, and Firestorm. Can you name one of the actors portraying them? Anybody famous? You can give them a hint. One of them played Thor and Mr. Immortal.
One of them just testified on Capitol Hill the other day.
That's true.
One of them's Thor. But Thor.
Well, they're giving you a totally different hint.
Oh.
There's a gentleman who's played Thor and a superhero called Mr. Immortal. But they're giving you a hint on somebody else.
Oh. Got me.
Okay, the 3 are Brett Basinger, who was on Bella and the Bulldogs a couple of years ago, and now she's going to be Stargirl. Derek Fuller, who's played Thor and Mr. Immortal, and Victor Garber, who was Firestorm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Wow, I got some hard ones for you. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Yeah, these are hard.
I know. Do you not like him? Everybody likes Dr. Ponder.
No, I have a thing against.
You were not surfing on this one, sir.
Yeah.
Are you afraid of sharks?
That fell off the board.
I didn't want to say anything. I don't like hacks.
Yeah.
Now, okay, this year we have seen, I can't believe I left this question in. This year we have seen several caravans to Canada as people travel to buy insulin there. The Times of London gave one such group this name. And the hint is, it's kind of a playoff of a pretty politically incorrect Tim McGraw song. They called them insulin, not in the law.
And a band from
out.
the 70s that sang Green Grass and High Tides Forever. Is anyone old enough?
What is she saying?
God.
Yes.
What song is that?
Insulin
Siri,
Mules?
what
Insulin
song is she
Mules?
singing?
I don't know. Insulin Mules?
Insulin Outlaws.
Oh, Outlaws.
I'm an
Okay.
Indian outlaw.
Okay.
Terrible song. Okay. Insulin Outlaws. Lately, it seems Tydepool made news just about every week. They announced at the ADA that they are not only working on a closed loop with Dexcom, but also with
Medtronic?
Oh. That's for you.
Medtronic?
Medtronic. All right. I think next year I got to draw the questions out of a hat. We're marking 20 years of Friends for Life at this conference, and you may know that this all started when Laura Bilodeau put out the invitation on the Children with Diabetes Forum to see if anybody wanted to join them at Disney for a vacation. How many people showed up that first year? Was it 15, 50, or 550?
50.
Keep going.
550.
550 people. Can you imagine? Laura's like, let's go on vacation. 550 people said, we're coming too. All right. Thank you so much for that. Let's go through and talk to our contestants and learn a little bit more about them. So, Cherise, tell us a little bit more about what led you to found DSMA and what you're doing now.
So in 2010, one of our friends actually talked me into joining Twitter in 2008. And I was like, this stuff is so confusing. Everything goes by really fast, and I'm not going to do it. And she was like, oh, come on, Cherise, you could do it. So one day I did it. And the only reason why I actually joined Twitter was because my husband was in Iraq. And it was the only communication that I had with adults because we were living in California and we had no family there. So when my daughter would be up crying, I turned to the diabetes community. So later, Dana Lewis created the healthcare and social media Twitter chat. And I was sitting there and I'm like, we need this in the diabetes community. So I talked to my husband, whose name is Scott. Then I talked to Scott Johnson. And I'm like, I have this idea. And I want to start this Twitter chat. He was like, oh, you're going to put out a call for next month? I said, no, I want to start it next week. He was like, next week? I was like, yeah. So I started it, and I think after that, I sat there, and I was like, nobody's going to show up, nobody's going to show up. And people started showing up every week. People from Australia, people from Nigeria, all over the world to talk about diabetes. I started it because there was not an organized place for people with diabetes to talk. And a lot of people, they questioned why I chose Twitter, but I wanted to have an open forum so that people can learn from people who are either living with it or affected by it, not from things that they assume, but they can actually learn. So I've had this small rural healthcare facility in Oklahoma. They said that if they watched the Twitter chat and if something was retweeted more than once, that they would take that information to the clinic and say, we probably should talk about this, because if they're talking about it like this openly, then there's something that's probably happening in our clinic that we don't know. So people have used it to help with their clinics. So I started it for that, so everybody in the ecosystem can have a place to talk.
Well, I love it. It's one of the first things I found. So thank you very much for doing that. Do you want to, I know you said we don't know what's going on next. Do you have exciting adventures ahead?
So I think for me, the goal and how I even ended up Roche is that when Roche used to have social media summits, I fell in love with how their person who ran their global social, his name was Rob, he actually facilitated everything. And I was like, if I ever worked in industry, that's where I wanted to go. So my husband, it was time to move, came back from Iraq the second time. And I was like, I would go to Indianapolis. That's where I want to go. So I hit the job 6 years later. Social media. Now I think for me, it would have to be something where I can help people with diabetes in the community. I'm very community focused, as everybody knows. If you have diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, I want to help because my husband has type 2 and my bonus daughter has LADA as well. So to me, it's all about bringing the community together all walks of life, all colors, and that's what I want to do. So whatever I go next, it would have to have that component.
Well, I can't wait to see it. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right, Dr. Ponder, my understanding is that you booked like a 3-hour tour. What's going on with you?
Oh yeah, we just opened the cruise booking for next year. We have a cruise going out, family diabetes cruise. It's kind of like what Laura did, I guess, based on what you said. We're going to see how many people are interested in doing a sugar surfing cruise next year from June 28th to July 5th out of Galveston, Texas. It's on the Facebook page for sugar surfing. We'll put it on our webpage pretty shortly. I just posted it about 30 minutes ago. We just got all the details. There's no fee, just book, and then we'll have a lot of conferences talking to you about sugar surfing, answering questions, maybe adding more speakers as the number of people grow. It'll be not unlike what Laura did, it sounds like, 20 years ago. And I'm glad you asked me that question, because it really is kind of the same sort of principle. How many people are interested in doing this cruise? And not that it'll become sugar surfing cruise in 20 years from now, but I think it's going to be a great opportunity for people that want to learn and do it in a relaxed environment. So
Great.
Looking very forward to that next year.
I'm also curious about the hats. Is there an origin story for the hats? Do you just like hats?
I've worn hats all my life since I was a teenager, and people that knew me back in my teenage years came to me and said, you still wear those hats? And people that didn't see me with the hats, but I wear them in the office, I wear them in the clinic. I interview the applicants for my residency program with hats.
That's
in fact,
awesome.
As you know, there's a little side story. Once they match in our program, I'm the residency training director. I train all the resident physicians in pediatrics at our hospital. They all get a hat. They get to choose it. And so on match day in March, I call them and I ask them what hat they want. And one woman I contacted one time, she actually contacted me and said, I'm in Africa, I want a giraffe. I said, why do you want a giraffe? Because I'm looking at one right now. And so everybody gets a hat. And it's been a theme that we've been doing for several years. But I have 150 hats. I have a bunch of them packed in my car to go to camp tomorrow. I've got to
that's
go to
great.
diabetes
What's your
camp.
favorite hat?
Good
No,
question.
I actually have several that move. You ever seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Sure.
You know, Tim the Enchanter. I have a Tim the Enchanter. Nice. It has the horns that grow out. So that's my favorite. It gets hot in the summer, but it's fun.
That's very funny. Okay, so Howard Tidepool was in our trivia and in the news. What's up? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks.
And thanks for pinch hitting. We really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
It's really great to be here. So this is a lot of fun. What's up? Tidepool is doing a lot of stuff. For those that are here at Friends for Life, I'm giving a talk Friday morning at 9 a.m. and we'll go into lots of detail. The big new news for us is that we've taken on a project to build upon the We Are Not Waiting movement that you described. So we're taking the open source do-it-yourself loop project and we are bringing it through clinical studies in cooperation with the Jabe Center for Health Research, and we're going to take it to the FDA. And our goal is to put Loop, and we'll call it Tidepool Loop, in the App Store. So people who don't want to have to worry about building their own closed-loop system, or maybe don't want to use an old Medtronic pump with it, and they want it to work with new in-warranty pumps, and just to be able to download it from the App Store, they'll be able to get their pump, get their CGM, get a prescription, and get it from the App Store, and away you go. So we're really excited about it.
And on a personal note, I mentioned your daughter was at NYU. You have 3 children.
That's
but
right.
Your daughter with type 1 was, as a parent of a kid who's going into high school, how was that? How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. My wife, Melissa, is here. I can't imagine having sent my daughter away to college without knowing that she was safe, because a closed-loop system was helping to keep an eye on her blood sugar and make sure that she was safe while she was sleeping. So she loved being in Manhattan. She's our city girl. And right now she's actually at a diabetes camp at Bearskin Meadows Camp in California. And she's a lifeguard and taking care of lots of other kids with type 1 too.
That's
so
great.
She's doing fabulous, and all 3 kids are doing great. We're very proud of them.
Thank you. All right, Maury, give us the Bluff the Listener contestant, please. I think you mentioned your name earlier. Our 4th contestant over there.
That is the fabulous Janice Gringsby. You
Okay.
are going to be our
Yes.
Bluff the Listener
right.
contestant.
So, Janice, what you need to do is just listen closely. Each of our contestants, our panelists up here, are going to read you a story about diabetes, and it's your job to guess which one of these 3 stories is true. 2 are false, 1 is true. And our theme this year is diabetes research based on animal traits. There are some incredible studies and research breakthroughs happening right now. Some of the most exciting are based on what we already know about the animal kingdom. So listen to all 3. And then afterward, you're going to figure out which one is true. So, Charisse, take us away. And don't read the title, just read the...
Okay. A few years ago, San Jose State University in California, researchers discovered that the blood of the opossum could hold the key to treating snake bites. As the researchers were developing a serum, testing injections on lab mice, and drawing blood, they discovered that blood was changing color. Lots of animals have unusually colored blood depending on climate and other factors, but it's extremely rare for the color to change. They started running all sorts of tests, and among the more interesting findings, when the mice had blue blood, it indicated a lower blood glucose value. When the blood was green, blood glucose was higher. While these researchers use the equivalent of finger stick to see the colors, they say it may be possible to use a high-powered light or other non-invasive device. They still don't know why there's a correlation between the color and the BG numbers, and the studies continue.
All right, so opossum anti-venom causing the color changes. All right, Howard, what's your story?
When researchers at MIT looked for a different way to get insulin into a pill, they looked no further than the African leopard tortoise. This tortoise has a shell with a high, steep dome, allowing it to right itself if it rolls onto its back. Why does it matter whether a pill lands right side up in your stomach? Well, this pill has a needle inside. Don't worry, these researchers point out that the stomach wall has no pain receptors, so they believe that patients will not be able to feel the injection. The whole thing is about the size of a blueberry. I love when you snort.
She's just cracking herself up.
The whole thing is about the size of a blueberry. The needle is made of compressed, freeze-dried insulin, and when it reaches the stomach, the needle injects. So it's important that no matter how the pill lands, it can orient and get the needle into the stomach lining, and not into yesterday's ham sandwich.
All right, Dr. Ponder, you're up.
Continuous glucose monitoring has been one of the most important diabetes management developments of the last 15 years. But one of the drawbacks becomes apparent as soon as you jump into the pool. Bluetooth isn't great at transmitting through water. You know what is? Dolphins. Researchers at Stanford University started looking at echolocation and CGM transmission about 5 years ago. Echolocation is the use of reflected sound to get information about the surrounding environment, and it's very common in water mammals. The researchers announced this year they've developed a prototype. It's actually very similar to CGMs currently used. It's an all-in-one sensor transmitter that's changed by the user every 10 days. A tiny transducer on the transmitter prototype emits an ultra-high frequency pulse which communicates with a wristwatch-style receiver. This UHF pulse generator can project a data signal strong enough to transmit 100 feet in air and penetrate through up to 25 feet of water. I've heard about this. This breakthrough paves the way for fewer data gaps as well as underwater CGM use. The trick with echolocation is that it's based on very high-frequency sound. The biggest challenge, researchers say, was not setting off some car alarms or alarming some neighborhood dogs.
All right, so this is a tough one. Who's got the real story? Is it Charisse with opossum anti-venom causing color changes to indicate blood glucose? Howard with the stomach needles based on the tortoise that can always flip itself back? Or Dr. Ponder with the CGM transmitter based on echolocation?
If Janice can ask the audience.
You can do whatever you want, Janice. And don't, Maura's going to give the answer, so don't jump in.
Okay.
Or clap. Number one was the venom. Wow. You actually have to guess.
Yep.
You blaming them? Number three. Maura, which is our true story?
Boy, those are some stories, huh? Well, my dad went to MIT, so I can tell you that those guys will try just about anything. You don't need to go to a Renaissance festival anymore someday to see someone swallow a needle. The MIT researchers are really excited about the possibilities here, and it could be worse. Their first model was actually a pill coated with many needles. No African leopard tortoises were harmed in the making of this podcast. And I also want to add that you all laughed about the stomach lining having no feeling, but I just went through a medical condition where I had part of my stomach outside of me for about 5 months, and your stomach lining has no feeling.
Wow.
Who knew?
Do you feel like a tortoise, though, sometimes now? Like, are you okay?
Well, it is hard for me to come out of my shell.
I love her. That was well done, and because everybody really sold it. I mean,
Yes.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Right back to the games, but first, Diabetes Connections is brought to you by One Touch. Have you ever tested your blood sugar with a meter and were unsure about the meaning of your result? Take the guesswork out of your numbers with the One Touch VarioFlex meter. It uses color short technology to instantly show you when your or your loved one's blood sugar numbers are low, indicated by blue, in range green, or high red, so you can quickly get on with your life. You can also use the meter's built-in Bluetooth smart technology to seamlessly sync with the One Touch Reveal mobile app, available now as a free download for Android devices on Google Play and Apple devices on the App Store. One Touch, because taking a step forward starts with seeing where you are. Now back to Wait, Don't Poke Me.
All right, so our last game is our limerick contest, and it is for our panelists. Maura, any idea where we are on points? I mean, it's...
I do know where we are on points.
Okay. Yeah, give us a quick little total here so we can figure out what kind of pressure is on.
Yeah, there's some pressure on, and that is that Howard and Charisse are neck and neck, completely tied, and Dr. Ponder is just pulling up the rear a little bit, and I'm feeling like he is kind of the type that kind of comes in later,
Shark
like that
attack.
horse.
Shark attack.
Shark attack. Land shark. You know that horse that ran around and won the Kentucky Derby?
I'm feeling a little bit more like the Tyrannosaurus Rexes that were all let out together.
But then they all died, Stacy. You are a bad diabetes mom.
The worst. All right, so the theme of this contest is You're So Sweet, I Have to Bolus, finding love in the diabetes community. There are 3 stories, true stories here, of people who found each other because of their diabetes connection, and it is your job to figure out where they met. All right, so Dr. Ponder, this one is for you, and I apologize in advance, I am no poet. When Amy met Andrew, that scamp, she knew that he was her champ. With a summertime crowd and no parents allowed, Andrew proposed right at... Oh, I know.
It's not your limerick.
Okay, I missed that.
You're going there in 2 days.
Okay, it rhymes with scamp and champ.
And you're going there.
Camp! Yes!
Go to the city.
Yes.
Go to town.
Okay, so Andrew and Amy Sterniolo met and fell in love at diabetes camp, and that's also where they got engaged. Andrew got all of Camp Kudzu, which is in Georgia, and the whole camp helped him propose, and they were married in 2017. There's the most adorable YouTube video, and I've had them on the podcast. They're so cute. All right, this one's for you. All right, I doubt it. Just think about the rhymes, word association. This trip wasn't really a hike, though there were lots of valleys and spikes. 3,000 miles, almost. They pedaled coast to coast and fell in love on the back of their...
Boat. Bike.
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 Hike, spike, bike. Yes.
Yes, Amanda Oberski and Matt Swain. Are you okay?
Yes.
Fell in love.
I cannot believe I missed that. That's what I'm like, what? Hike, bike, spike.
I'm telling you, when you're up here and you feel like there's some pressure, it's like I forget my name half the time. So Amanda and Matt fell in love during Beyond Type 1's Bike Beyond in the summer of 2017. They biked from New York to California. They now live in Toronto with their dog, Apollo.
Now, if you would have said their name was magic, rhyme with bike, spike, hike, then that would be.
I would have, if you were like stopped. I would have been like, if you didn't know.
Hammer time.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
And I
Can't
think
touch this.
Coast
Ready?
made you think
Here we
about
go. Okay. Wow. I got to make these tougher next year.
I'm afraid.
Our last rhyme for husband and wife, who've never had moments of strife. They lived far away, but on that fateful day, they met right at...
Friends for life.
Friends for life! Yay! All right. Chelsea and Martin Carr both came to Friends for Life in 2003, right here at Coronado Springs. Chelsea's brother has type 1. They were friends with a lot of the same people. They started dating long distance in 2012 because Martin lived in Scotland, Chelsea lived in Florida.
Oh, wow.
I think they're here this year. They got married in 2014. They live in Glasgow, but they keep volunteering here, and they help organize the Friends for Life UK conferences.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right, I've got one more because I had a backup just in case I thought I had made a mistake. Anybody just want it for bonus point? More you want?
Yes, I want a point. I want to be him. I want to be Howard.
No, this one's going to be for Maura. Putting you on
Oh,
the
for
spot.
me?
Yeah. This
Except
one's
I
for
have
you.
the answer.
Oh, well, then it can't be for you.
No,
I
it
had a
can't be
script.
for me.
All right.
I would know the
I know
answer
the
anyway
story.
because I know everything.
All right, well, it's for this side of the table then.
Okay, let's. Oh,
You can
yes.
hint. You can help with
Okay.
hints. Okay. When your spouse knows what diabetes takes, an easier match it can make. This pair had a date, and the treats that they ate has them saying it started with...
Cake?
Close.
You know
gotta,
this.
Gotta add a syllable to
Come on,
it.
boss
Shake and
man.
bake?
What's even better than
Kristen
cake?
Dale. Kristen Dale.
What's even better than cake? Little cakes. Like
Cupcakes.
Cupcakes.
Yeah, that's Kristen Dale.
That's Kristen Dale.
Oh my gosh, I know them.
So Chris Snyder is the community manager for Tide Pool, and he and his wife Dale had their first date at a cupcake shop. And I think they celebrated their 4-year anniversary in May. But their hashtag, as people do nowadays, is it started with cupcakes. And that was a bonus question because I wasn't sure the people on Bike Beyond actually meant that way, and I had to confirm that Okay, that's the whole deal. Who won, Maura? Any idea? We don't
Yeah,
know.
I know who won.
Oh.
Oh! Did everyone else want to know? Wendy, Moody, and Howard look.
All right. Thank you all for coming and playing. We actually have gifts for all of our contestants, so don't leave. Please come and get your gifts. Our people who are not here in person, our listeners, are getting gift certificates to Real Good Foods. Thank you to Dexcom for helping me out, bringing this to Friends for Life. And please listen to the podcast and come meet everybody right here and at their sessions. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Diabetes Connections with Stacy Sims.
Thank you to everybody who played along with our silliness. And I need to point out a special thank you to Howard Look. I don't think we alluded to it during the show, but he was pinch hitting for us. If you saw the graphic I put out a couple of weeks ago before the show when we were looking for contestants, we had a different panelist. We had Oren Lieberman, who is a CNN correspondent. He lives in Jerusalem and he has type 1. And he had another commitment at the conference and it involved kids and, it just didn't work out. But one of the things that happens at Friends for Life is there are all these amazing people there. So I asked Howard if he would, jump in, and he was wonderful and did so. So we really appreciate that. Oren, you are not off the hook. We will get you next time. But I appreciate it, and it was so much fun to do. Congratulations to all of our listeners who won. I'll be sending you an email. You really should have received that already about your prize and how to claim it. And if you already know you're going to be at Friends for Life next year and are interested in helping me live stream this nonsense over Facebook or another social media outlet, get in touch and let me know because I will take all the help I can get. Okay, in our community connection this week, another caravan to Canada, but this one had a top-tier U.S. presidential candidate along for the ride. Community Connection is brought to you by Tandem, makers of the t:slim X2 insulin pump, and we started using the Basal IQ feature on the t:slim X2 insulin pump late last summer. I'm still amazed at how well it's worked for us. The system uses data from the Dexcom G6 CGM. After all this time with treating lows, we've really had to learn to look at blood glucose differently. To find out more about Benny's pump, just go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Tandem logo. In the past couple of years, more people with diabetes have received a lot more attention for doing these trips over the border, right? Going to Canada, going to Mexico, buying insulin, where it's a lot less expensive than it is in this country. And over the past few weeks, those trips are getting a lot more media attention. We brought you one such caravan to Canada a couple of weeks ago, and I will link that particular trip up again at the conversation that we had about it in the show notes for this episode. But around the recent Democratic debate in Detroit, U.S. presidential candidate Bernie Sanders decided to go along with one such caravan, in that area. So about a dozen people with diabetes went along with Bernie Sanders on a chartered bus from Detroit to Canada to purchase insulin for a lot less money. Now, Sanders says that the U.S. government should set drug costs based on the average prices in 6 other countries, including Canada. And he says the U.S. should allow healthcare providers and others to import drugs to reduce costs. I'm not going to go into all the details here and list everybody who went and talk about what they said. I will say that Quinn Nystrom, who was one of the people we talked to before, pointed out that not everybody on the trip is campaigning for Bernie Sanders, but she was thrilled that a top presidential candidate would take the time to do this and bring attention, because the press coverage, of course, for this one was even more than the last few. So great point there. Mike Hoskins from Diabetes Mind, who coincidentally was one of the contestants in the game show that you heard earlier, but he is a journalist and he was along for this ride as well. He has type 1 diabetes, but he did not purchase insulin. He said he was there with press hat firmly in place. I'm going to link up the article that he's writing on this, as well as some others, so you can see the whole story. It continues to get momentum. It continues to get attention. And I think it's going to be a big part of the U.S. presidential election. So we shall see if that means there's any progress on this front. All right, we need some good news. So time for Tell Me Something Good. And that is brought to you by Real Good Foods. And Real Good Foods products are now available in Walmart. And they just keep adding great items to this lineup. You know, we started talking to them when they had pizza, they had enchiladas. Now they have added stuffed chicken, they've added breakfast sandwiches, they've added a cauliflower crust pizza, and the food is great. I think one of the things that they've done is they've really cracked the code when it comes to gluten-free and low carb without that weird, mouthfeel that you can sometimes get when it's gluten-free. You know exactly what I'm talking about if you've ever tried foods that just don't seem to have it. It's all crumbly and weird that way. They've done such a good job, especially with the pizzas, which seems to be locally the easiest thing for us to find. It's in my Harris Teeter freezer. I can go to Publix and get more variety. They, as I said, are in Walmart now. But really the best thing to do is go to diabetes-connections.com and click on the Real Good Foods logo, and you can get any item you want. Whenever I post that I'm looking for tell me something good stuff, milestones, diversaries, accomplishments, I always say, give me your birthdays, whatever you want. And I've got my first birthday shout out, Whitney. Happy birthday to Whitney. Her birthday is just passed. It was July 30th, but she is turning 30. And that is a game changer, personally and as a T1D. So Whitney, thanks for writing in to tell us about that. I hope your day was fantastic. I wish you happy birthday and many, many more. I want to point out some other great stuff for Tell Me Something Good. Leah writes in that my 13-year-old daughter had a fantastic 2-week school trip to China, Inner Mongolia even. And she's got this amazing picture of her daughter in, full regalia, just looks beautiful. And I am Facebook friends with Leah, so I followed along on this trip. But she writes here, she basically managed everything on her own with the school nurse there for support. She did a great job of estimating carbs for all the interesting food she ate, including lots of bubble tea and a dumpling fest. The only challenge was a bad sight that led to very high blood sugars, highest she's ever had actually, and large ketones. But after a few hours of lots of extra insulin and lots of texts through the Chinese messaging app WeChat, she came down and everything was fine. I am so proud of her. This is fantastic, Leah. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm glad she had a great trip. I believe her daughter is fluent in Chinese. I mean, this is some school that her kids go to. And Leah is also the person who shared with us, and I'll link this up as well, that she and her family took an around-the-world trip a couple of years ago, which was fantastic to follow along with. And it also opened up our eyes a lot about the cost of insulin elsewhere in the world. Sarah wrote in to tell me, the new owner called to say my husband's insulin was delivered at our old address. Glad she could get a hold of us. That was good news. How about that? I don't know about you, but Benny's insulin comes in a giant styrofoam container. Our mail order service gives us 3 months worth. And it's always my fear that it's going to sit in the North Carolina sun. It's got the ice packs and the whole thing, but I'm always so worried we're going to miss it. And I can't even imagine that it was delivered to my old house So Sarah, I'm so glad that your new owner was so nice and thoughtful and thought fast and got you what you needed. Oh my gosh. Colleen wrote in, I was explaining to our son how the body delivers available glucose to his vital organs first after treating a low, so he would understand why the CGM still showed low, but his BG wasn't actually low. And that led right into a conversation about what is a vital organ. I listed them and he said, pancreas. No, that is electronic. It made me laugh, she writes. Absolutely. It is pretty amazing what our kids pick up and what they have to say about all this. So yeah, his electronic pancreas, no doubt, Colleen. I get that. And finally, Margie writes in, my 15-year-old son just passed his first diversity in May and is taking his driving permit test this week. He maintains straight A's in accelerated high school classes, plays the viola in orchestra, plays competitive tennis, and independently manages with a 5.1 A1C. Nothing holding this kid back. We are very proud. I'm thrilled for you, Margie. You know me, I'm not going to focus on the number, but I am going to skip past everything else and say driving permit test. Oh my gosh. You know, at 15, right? That's what some of these states, including where I live, Benny took driver's ed this summer. So he could get his permit as soon as this winter when he turns 15. Oh my gosh. This was supposed to be tell me something good, not tell me something scary. Anyway, thanks everybody for writing in. I love this segment. We will continue to do it as long as we have all of this good news. So please keep sending it in. You can email me or drop it in the Facebook group. Just tell me something good. Quick word before I let you go. I just want to talk a little bit more about Eli Lilly's nasal glucagon. They got FDA approval recently. The name of this medication is Baqsimi. And this is great news for the community, right? This is going to be a great way to treat severe hypoglycemia. We did a whole episode about this, and I will link that up. The folks from Lilly explained what it is, how it works, as much as they could before it was FDA approved. And they did a great job of it at the time. So you can go back and listen to that. But I took part in one of the calls that they do. And a lot of the drug companies will do this, or the different, pharmaceutical groups will say, we're going to have a call and tell you the latest news. And I rarely jump on them, only because generally speaking, it's what's in the press release. And it's nice to be able to ask questions, but, I'm not always able. Time is tight. You get the idea. But I jumped on with Lilly, as did many other diabetes media outlets. And so I'm going to link up what other people have written about this call as well. And I should temper this before I get started. I don't mean this to be a bash of Lilly. I mean, I'm not one of those people that, yes, the price of insulin is ridiculous. I have talked to them about this before. If you haven't listened, I have directly asked them about the price of insulin. I usually talk to marketing people or I talk to doctors. So unfortunately, those people don't have a lot of power to change the pricing structure, but it's always the top issue and it will continue to be the top issue. Same thing here with Baqsimi. And I just got to say, I guess in politics, they say the optics aren't good. These guys led the call by talking about affordability and accessibility. They have put this out in press releases. They've mentioned it in online posts, but the message doesn't match what's actually going on. The list price for a 1-pack of Baqsimi is $280.80. A 2-pack is $561.60. Now, obviously, if you have insurance, you're not going to pay that. In fact, they made a big point on the call to talk about a coupon that's going to be available for everybody with commercial insurance for 1 year supply for just $25, which is fantastic and very affordable. But that's if your insurance covers it. That's if the coupon code works. That's if you can find the coupon, your pharmacy takes it, and all of that. So I asked, this list price is exactly the same as the emergency glucagon kit that Eli Lilly makes. That red box, that this is an alternative to. So I asked them, how'd you come up with the price? Is it exactly the same to manufacture? Did the research show you that this was the right price? They didn't answer that. And I found it disappointing because, there's two things going on here. On the one hand, the pricing is out of control. And some of this is out of Lilly's hands. I mean, the biggest eye-opener I got when it came to drug pricing was there was a great 60 Minutes show about this, where they showed a company tried to put out a medication for a very reasonable price. But the insurance companies and the middlemen, the pharmacy benefit managers, the PBMs, couldn't make any money on it. So nobody covered it. They had to jack up the price, and the consumer still paid the same. But then the insurance companies could make money on it. If you weren't insured, however, the drug now was completely out of reach. So we have a broken system. But I still think that companies like Eli Lilly could be the hero here and find a way to get this to people for a very reasonable price. And the fact that it's priced exactly the same as the red kit, even though it's a completely different product, the other part of that equation is that it's a little bit insulting to our intelligence. Right? We know that it doesn't cost the same to manufacture. Maybe Baqsimi costs more. I don't know. But to put it out for the exact same price, that just speaks volumes to me. The other thing I asked about, and I'm laughing because I don't know if anybody even cares about this, but I'm always interested. I asked why it's called Baqsimi. It doesn't make any sense to me, right? That doesn't say glucagon. It doesn't have anything to do with, nasal passages. I thought maybe there'd be a scientific term for it and they would tell me. But Baqsimi apparently came from the company that started developing this years ago. It's kind of like a got your back. The people who use this, the caregivers who will help you with this, they got your back. So I'll continue to look into that. Now, bottom line, this is going to be a great product. I'm so thrilled about it because I said this at a panel recently. I stopped sending emergency glucagon with Benny to sleepovers a long time ago because nobody knows how to use it. And studies show that people freak out when they have to use it and they don't use it correctly. So a product like this takes all of that skill out. You just spray it up the nose. It doesn't even matter if you have a cold. It has nothing to do with congestion. It's just the nasal passages. It doesn't get into your lungs. So if you have asthma or there's breathing issues, it's nasal passages only. It's a home run. I think it's going to be a great product. It's going to help a lot of people. It's not approved for under the age of 4. I do need to tell you that. But you'll hear a lot more about it and we'll link up more. So that's now you know why I put it at the end of the show, because you are hardcore if you were still listening. But I appreciate it. And I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what happens on those calls. Again, I'll link up the other diabetes news outlets that were there to cover it, and we will hear more on this. There still is another form of glucagon up in front of the FDA right now that is a liquid, but it's shelf stable. So if it's approved as is, my understanding is that it's going to be more like an insulin pen, in that you'll just be able to pop a pen needle on the end or maybe just open the cap and use it. You won't have to mix anything or have that enormous needle that they have right now. So that's a different product, and that is in front of the FDA as we speak. All right. Phew. Next week, Maura McCarthy is back for fun and advice as we do another Ask the D-Mom episode. We're going to be answering your questions. Always fun to do that. Thank you to my editor, John Buchanan from Audio Editing Solutions. Always appreciate you. And thank you so much for listening. I'm Stacey Sims. I'll see you back here next week.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.
Should we sing the closing music?